I cannot believe I am actually making this video. I thought so many times throughout the season about making this, but I was convinced that I would end up looking like a fool. I mean, there is no way the New York Rangers, the President's Trophy winners just 1 year ago, missing the playoffs, it seemed absurd. Okay, baby, let's go in on them. The New York Rangers, once the class of the NHL, a team that was just a couple of wins away from making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, has fallen apart like a house of cards in a tornado. From upper management dysfunction to ineptitude behind the bench to incredibly awful trades, bad injury luck, slumping players, and a locker room that was apparently more toxic than Chernobyl, the New York Rangers 2024-25 season is mercifully about to end. But the question has to be asked, how did things go so wrong so quickly? What the heck caused the downfall of the New York Rangers, and how can we all laugh at it? Well, as is always the case, the rot stars in the head down. James Dolan still owns this team, and as long as he owns a professional sports franchise, there's a cap to just how effectively they can be run. Just last year, there were rumors that the Rangers were not allowed to trade their first-round pick because Dolan wanted to make sure that they had a presence at the first round of the Vegas draft to be held at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which apparently Dolan has some financial stake in. Even though he wasn't directly meddling in affairs this year, we need only look to his handpicked GM for evidence of the nepotism that infects this entire organization. Chris Drury was a fine player and a big signing for the New York Rangers about 10 years ago, but he's run this organization with the sadistic ruthlessness of Colonel Klink while also the ineptitude of a small-town jailer who fell asleep next to the cell with the key ring hanging from his pocket. Remember him jerking around locker room glue guy Barclay Goodrow, trying to trade Barclay Goodrow to the Sharks, having Goodrow reject that trade because of his no-movement clause, and then putting him on waivers to be claimed by the very same San Jose Sharks. Moves like that apparently didn't inspire much confidence among the players in the locker room, and who could blame them? And things only got worse in season when he traded away captain Jacob Trouba, he also with a no-movement clause and who had publicly expressed a desire to stay in New York, and then saying he was going to shop players including longtime Ranger Chris Kreider, and then not doing anything. Yes, he brought in catnip JT Miller to appease the fans and ownership before the trade deadline, then also kind of sold by trading away Ryan Lindgren, but at least he set up the Rangers for success next year. Oh, that's right, he included a conditional first-round pick in the JT Miller trade, as well as a young, albeit often injured player in Phil Hedl. With no first-round pick this year because they can't risk giving up a first-round pick in a loaded 2026 draft, and only about $9 to $10 million in cap space over the summer, it's not looking like the Rangers have a lot of flexibility to make moves in the offseason. Nevertheless, because he's Dolan's buddy, apparently Drury's job is safe going into next year. The rest of the Metro Division sends their regards. Behind the bench, though, it's another story, as Pierre Laviolette may be looked at as a sacrificial lamb this offseason. And as much as I want to relentlessly make fun of the Rangers here, I can't deny that that's the right move. The guy's looked completely outclassed in his last few months of the season, even saying that he doesn't go into the locker room postgame to talk to the players. He's talked all about effort and energy and the locker room vibes and done absolutely nothing to fix any of it. And as somebody who was formerly victimized by him, I just want to say on behalf of Caps fans, Rangers fans, we told you this was going to happen. We told you that he would refuse to play younger players and drive a wedge in between your young budding stars. This is the guy who refused to play Connor McMichael in his last year behind the bench in DC. It's no surprise to us that he scratched Gabe Perreault down the stretch and traded away Capo Caco. To give you a bit of optimism though, it's at least likely that Lafreniere will begin to develop again once he's outside of this hyperbaric chamber. But while Laviolette will likely be the biggest domino to fall this offseason, the fact of the matter is that the New York Rangers core is in desperate need of an overhaul. In the previous playoffs, I picked against the Rangers constantly because I thought that they were a paper tiger, and that proved to be true. They were backpacked by Igor Shesterkin and high-end talent, and this year, that kind of failed them. Not Shesterkin, he was still playing out of his mind, but just about every other high-end player took a step back. Panarin was very good this year, but he was a far cry from the elite 120-point player he was the year before. Alexis Lafreniere, who Rangers fans swore was about to become the next big superstar in the NHL, took a massive step back. Adam Fox was good when he was on the ice, but often injured, and a far cry from an elite defenseman like we've been expecting of him. Didn't help that much that the rest of the defensive core was routed out by the likes of the eternally underachieving Keandre Miller, as well as Carson Soucy and Will Borgen, who were brought in for some godforsaken reason. Seriously, Drury, I know that by the end, Trouba was just a walking concussion vending machine, but you couldn't replace him with at least an adequate defenseman. And congrats on locking Will Borgen up to an extension. Don't know how your defensive core was going to survive without his turnovers. But now let's get to the whipping boys of the roster. Rangers fans are ready to run Mika Zibanejad and Chris Dennis Kreider out of town after very bad seasons, and I understand why with regards to Zibanejad. The guy's proven to be a passenger on really good teams, not a driver of play, and is not close to earning the $8.5 million he's going to be due for the next 3 years. Kreider, on the other hand, I'm not sure why Rangers fans are so excited to move off of quickly. Yes, he had a bad year, a very bad one by his own standards, but he was still above water when it comes to driving offensive play and expected goal ratio, and I'd be inclined to think that he can bounce back even though he's on the wrong side of 33. A guy who I do not see enough Rangers fans blasting who had a terrible year by his own standards is Vinny Trocheck, a two-way player in his early 30s who just had the worst on-ice expected goal ratio of his entire career since he was a rookie and has another 3 years on his contract. They really should have sold high on him last year. So what ended up happening to the New York Rangers this year? In short, the chickens kind of came home to roost. They're a poorly operated mess who traded away the very little leadership they had on the ice, didn't have enough off-ice leadership behind the bench to make up for it, and thanks to a few key players having down years, went from the champs of the regular season to the chumps of the year. And honestly, things are not getting better this offseason, as I mentioned. And unfortunately, that championship window that Rangers fans thought was about to open has been slammed down right on their hands.